We're learning about what is a chassid, but we're not learning about what is a chassid in the sense of like you're a chassid or I am a chassid or you try to be a chassid and I try to be a chassid, but chassid in the most idealized sense. Chassid, as the word chassid is meant in Torah. And there are two basic points that we discussed in the previous class. The first is that the einyan of a chassid is bittul. The way we described chassid was by speaking about the higher madrega of Mesiras Nefesh from Tanya Perek Mamalev, which is also, of course, in Tanya Perek Yud, that he puts somebody else before himself. He puts the Eibishter ahead of himself. In other words, there's a very, very deep madrega of bittul. That's the first point. And the second point is that a chassid is somebody that because of his incredible bittul to the Eibishter affects a change in the world memela, automatically. Not only is it true that tzaddik gezev HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim, but a tzaddik decrees and Hashem annuls the decree, but moreover, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezev, a tzaddik mevatel, Hashem decrees and the tzaddik nullifies it. But even more than that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezer and the tzaddik is mevatel b'li tzivui, without a tzivui. So those are the two basic points. The first point is the incredible bittul of the chassid, yeducha vayekol maasecha. And the second point is the yavarchu koi. Yavarchu koi means that because of the high madrega of the chassid, the effect of his bracha on the world is b'derech memela. In the discussion that we gave in the previous shir, amongst the many things that we discussed to help enlighten this was the idea of Teras Yom Naseh. And Teras Yom Naseh, of course, is a concept found in the Gemara and in Halacha. And in Chassidus, when you talk about Teras Yom Naseh, they connect it to the Madrega of Ahavtas Hashem Elokecha B'chol Meidecha. A Yid who serves Hashem on a level of B'li Gvul, with all of his heart. And the Lashon Mishneh, B'chol Midu Midah Shu Meided L'cha, have a Meided Le'b'me'ed Me'ed, whether Hashem gives you a good hand or Hashem gives you a bad hand, in both cases you say thank you. You say Ateva Meitiv. You say thank you. This level of B'chol Meidecha is the pnimius, is the soul of the person who's Teras Yom Naseh. Because Teras Yom Naseh is half of it. Teras Yom Naseh doesn't only mean you learn Torah all day long. Teras Yom Naseh means you learn Torah and kol malachtacha asuya. The work that you need to do happens by mail, it happens by itself. Teras Yom Naseh, which brings to kol malachtacha asuya. And that's, of course, the pshat, that a yid who is a chassid, that means he learns Torah on a level of such bittul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he needs something done in the world for himself or for another, so his koyach HaTorah and the fact that his Torah is on a level of kol malachtacha asuya affects that the miracle should happen in this world. What's interesting, however, in this maamar, and I believe that this is one of the ways of describing what we're going to be learning tonight, which is Perek Hey and Perek Vov and Perek Zayin and Perek Ches. That's the plan, at least. Is that there seems to be madregas in Teras Yom Naseh. Teras Yom Naseh is a serious thing. In other words, Teras Yom Naseh is much, much more than a person says, I'm not going to work, I'm going to learn Torah. Teras Yom Naseh means I'm so connected to the Eibishter that my panasa is in Torah. For the Gemara, lehibet avam beyankiv leira omol beyisrael. So the Chazal explained it, and you have many Maamar Chassidus on this, that there's three types of omol. There's amal malacha, there's amal sich, and amal Torah. Amal malacha means that you make a living by working panasa. It's perfectly legitimate for a person to go out into this world and make a living. The Chassidus brings from Mechilta de Rab Shimon that when it says Sheishes Yomim Tase Ma'asecha Tiase Malocha, it's a mitzvah. Just like you have to rest on Shabbos, you have to work during the week. Because when a Yid works to earn a living, besides for the fact that he's feeding his Bnei Bayis, he's been Mekayem mitzvah of working, of serving the Eibishter through Malacha. It's perfectly legitimate. Then you have a person who's Amal Malacha, Amal Sicha, that his avodah is Tefillah. And then you have a person who's Amal Teira, that his whole Yegiya is through Limud HaTorah. And a person who's Teras Hayom Nosei means that he learns Torah with such an attachedness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that his Parnasa happens like Murmur. It happens by itself. However, we seem to have established that in this itself, in the idea of a Yid who's in a Madrega Teras Hayom Nosei, which is real the Madrega B'chol Meidecha, because it's only on that level that you do Ruchnius and the Gashmius comes automatically. There's Kama V'Kama Madregas, there's several Madregas. And the way it's going to play itself out in this Maamar, it's going to be 3 Madregas. Because as the Rebbe told us yesterday, in the previous Shir, in other words, and we had it also in earlier classes, that there's one tzaddik who's Teras Hayom Nosei, right? The example is the Pinchas ben Yair, whose Torah makes him a balabas over the world, but he has to be geizer, he has to be mitzav, he has to say something, he has to ask for it. And there's another tzaddik that's Taka Teras Hayom Nosei, and it's because of his Torah is a balabas over the world, and he doesn't even have to be geizer, he doesn't even have to be mitzave, he doesn't have to be mevakesh, it happens memela. And that's the Madrega of Rishim B'Yechoy. So what we're going to be exploring tonight is this idea, that on the one hand, there's a lot of people who are the Madrega of Teras Hayom Nosei, and by the way, a lot means very few, but more than one. And all of them are in the Madrega that they learn Torah, and Malachtam Nasas Idea Chedim, and they're balabas over the world, and they can perform miracles and so forth. But there's differences between them. And the differences between them is, or are, whether they need to be goyzer and mitzaved, that the nes, that the thing that they need, b'derech hateva, should materialize, or it's going to happen automatically. Let's now go to the text and let's learn the Maamar. V'tzarech lehavin. The question is, the chosid hu l'mayla mitzadik. Chosid is higher than a tzaddik. Ukemavur b'haMaamar, as the Rebbe Rashab says in his Maamar, Pada b'shom tafashayin hey ha'eter. Be'inyan, in the fact that there's gimel madregas, that there's 3 levels. What are the 3 levels? Tzaddik, Yashar, and Chosid. And Yashar is Lamayla mi Tzaddik. Yashar is the middle level, it's higher than Tzaddik. And Chosid is Lamayla gami Yashar. That a Chosid also than a Yashar. So the question is as follows. When it says in the Pasuk, which so much of this Maamar and the previous Maamar are built on, that you bring from the highest level called Yiducha Havaya, and you bring it down to the lowest level, which is called Yivarchu Koi, through the intercession, through the intermediacy of a Yid who's a Chosid, Frek the Rebbe, only a Chosid, not a Yashar, not a Tzaddik. They could also be in a Madrege of B'chol Meidecha, Teras Hayom Nosei. Now remember, the Maamar doesn't use these words. B'chol Meidecha, Teras Hayom Nosei, this is my words. But this is how it's explained in Kama Makemis Echsidus. A Yid who's involved in Ruchnius and his Balabatashkeit over the Gashmizdika world comes from his involvement in Ruchnius, which is called in the Lashon Hashas, Kol Malacht Chasui. He doesn't have to work for Parnasa, the Eibishter provides. So the question becomes, Mash, it's indicative, it's implicit, it means, Shebechdei lahamshich be'efen de brach, to bring down in a way that's certain. And then the Rebbe says in the parenthesis, B'derech memela b'li bakosh, to the extent that it happens by itself. You don't even have to ask. Like the story with Abshim Bayachoy, which is brought in Zayed and so many Maamar Chassidus of Lagbeimer and so on, that he was sitting and learning. And they needed rain. So they came to Reb Shimon. And I don't even know if they told Reb Shimon they need rain. Reb Shimon just saw them coming, and the way the Zayed is told, and this is a lot of the Maamar Chassidus go off in this direction, that his Talmidim started to be Meshabeach, and they started to praise him. One of them called him Shabbos. They called him by all kinds of names, and the whole sugi in Chassidus about this is why you have to praise a tzaddik. Flattery is a davar of Chanufa, one of the worst midas. And they flattered him, they praised him, and he began to say Teira on the pasuk, Hini matevim anoyim, Shabbos acham gam yacha, and then it rained. Without even having to make a bakosha for rain. The Rebbe once said in the Sikha, that why did he say a Teira on him, matevim anoyim, Shabbos acham gam yacha, because in v'havas Yisrael, v'haft larecha kameich. And when Yidden are together, it's easy to bring mamshach the barachas of HaKadosh Baruch. So Reb Shimon brought down a bracha from a very high level. In the words of the Rebbe yesterday, there was a gzeira that there shouldn't be rain. And yet he created a yehidatz and a nudatz that it should be rain. And he did it b'derech memela, b'liba kosher, there wasn't even a request. Mehamokim, from such a high place, sheboy hu hahidah, where a Yid's only relationship with the Eibishter is one of submission. In other words, that he brought down from a level called Yeducha Havaya, and he brings it down all the way till the level of Yevarchu Kei. And the implication of yesterday's learning was that it's only a chassid. And the kasha is, what about a tzaddik and a yosher? Who dafka yedei chassidecha alton zeh chassid. Shalamayla mitadikim, it's higher than the madrega of tzaddik. V'tzorich lehavin, says the Rebbe, I don't understand. Now appreciate what the Rebbe is doing. The Rebbe is learning Maamarim Chazal, Gemara, Teresh Balpeh. But he's translating the words literally. In other words, the Rebbe says that when the Gemara uses the word chassid, when the Gemara uses the word yosher, and the Gemara uses the word tzaddik, it has a taich, it means something. It's not just arbitrary, it's not just mushy-feely, it's just not just a nice accolade. It's a true criteria, it's a real category. So the Rebbe's kasha is, Harei gam b'negel tzaddikim omru chazal. It's written in the Gemara that HaKadosh Baruch Hu geize v'tzaddik mevatel, besides for the Yerushalmi, v'tig zer eimel yakom lach, which this Maamar has brought. There's a Bavli that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu geize v'tzaddik mevatel. The Eibishter decrees and the tzaddik nullifies it. Ve'eif bitla gezeira hu, and in fact, the way a tzaddik breaks a gezeira is leia, they bakoshas a tzaddik, doesn't ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, elai de tzivu shalei. He declares, he commands, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezer, v'tzaddik not mevakesh, but mevatel. He's able to nullify the Eibishter's gezeira. Da'yedei shehu mitzaveh, when he instructs and commands, but says, I don't agree, nit maskim, should just battle a gezeira, that the gezeira should be nullified, mizbateles hi memele. The decree is nullified automatically. As the pasuk says, tzaddik meishel b'yiras havai. A tzaddik is a ruler when it comes to these inyanim. U'pirshur azal, that on this pasuk, tzaddik meishel b'yiras Hashem, it says in the Gemara, tzaddik meishel b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a tzaddik rules over the Eibishter, levatel as gereif, to break his decrees. And of course, if the Rebbe wanted to be imprecise, he would simply say, yeah, over here tzaddik means chassid. But he doesn't do that. If there is a Gemara, and there is a pasuk that calls a Yid, who has a keach, to be mevatel a gezeira that the Eibishter made, a tzaddik, that means tzaddikim, or in the madrege of teirasei umnasei, which brings down the level of elukus shalamayla meishtalsha, which is called yeducha havaya, and it comes all the way down to the madrege of yevarchu kei, that it's a certain thing that it can break a gezeira that the Eibishter made. And therefore the question becomes, there's a move on lechaeda that seems to indicate Shegam b'imshoch aidei tzaddikim. Not only a Yid who's on a madrege of teirasei umnasei called chassid, and not only a Yid who's in a madrege of teirasei umnasei called yosher, but even a Yid who's in a madrege of teirasei umnasei called tzaddik has this koyach. Yeshnem shtei ma'alas anachas, the two aforementioned strengths. First of all, that he can draw down from a place which is above understanding Yeducha Havaya. All you can do is submit. Moreover, and the way he brings it down from such a high place is it's not a request, it's a command. So the question is, we find Gemaras and Psukim that say that not only a chassid can break the Eibishter's decree and bring the lakus into this, bring a miracle into this world with the Tzivah and Gezeira, but even a tzaddik and a yosher can as well. And the question becomes, in this pasuk, since the pasuk mentions only chassid and doesn't mention yosher, and doesn't mention tzaddik, and the Rebbe Rashab Taka points out that it's dafka because he's a chassid that he has this keach, mashma, it's indicative, sham shacha be'ef and the bracha, that to bring something down in a sure way, in a certain way, on a level called a bracha. From a level where one's relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is heidah, is bekeach chasidech adafka, is dafka chassid. So the shaila becomes, is it true, as we seem to be understanding in this Maamar, that only a chassid can bring from so high and bring to so low in a certain way, or is it true also of a yosher of a tzaddik? In other words, lower madreges in the einyan of teirasei umnasei, and they can also be mevatel gezeira. This is the kash. And the answer is going to be yes and no. They can all do it, but there's different levels. And only the chassid is going to be on the highest madrege. The total b'derech mamela is going to be a chassid. That's going to be the teretz. So the Rebbe is not going to say that the pasuk or the Maamar Chazal is wrong. He's simply going to say that in this process of Yavarchu Kei, there's several madregas. I want to tell you Stamaz Amaise, right? Amaise the Chalam Lagutazach. This is an Emir Afton's Maises. Emir Afton has a sefer called Eres Bafela, which he wrote himself. And in it is a section of Sipurim. And one of the stories he tells is the following story, that his mashpia was Reb Chacha. Reb Chacha Fagin was the menal of the yeshivas Tem Chapimim in Russia. When the Friedrich Rebbe was released from prison, in Yud Beis Tammuz, Yud Gimel Tammuz, Tofresh Peizayin, he very quickly left Leningrad and went to a suburb of Moscow called Balachavka, and he stayed in somebody's home, in a private home. Now, the reason he left is because it was made very clear to him by the local Yevsektia, the local Rishoyim, that they were going to get him again. They were just they were going to wait a little bit, then they were going to go after him again. And of course, the end of the story is that he left Russia some, 4 months later. During the time that he was in Malachavka, there were strict orders that nobody should come and see him. Except for a few people. I think 4 or 5 people had the right to come and see the Rebbe. One of the individuals who was authorized to come and see the Rebbe was Reb Chacha Fagin. So he went to see the Rebbe that summer. And the Rebbe told him some very interesting things. One of the things the Rebbe told him was that by the Mezritcher Magid there was a kitrug. By the Mezritcher Magid there was a kitrug, just like there was a kitrug by the Alter Rebbe. And the Mezritcher Magid was supposed to go to jail, just as the Alter Rebbe went to jail. Reb Zusha Hanapol does that heard. Reb Zusha Hanapol heard it, however you hear such things. And Reb Zusha Hanapol said that the Beinish Aleilam Zusha will nicht. The Beinish Zusha doesn't want, so it didn't happen. So the Friedrich Rebbe told this to Reb Chacha. So Reb Chacha says to the Friedrich Rebbe, so the Rebbe sagen as will nicht. So the Rebbe should say he shouldn't want, and it won't be. And the Rebbe didn't respond. The Rebbe did not answer him, which of course is, what do we know? But this Amoid Nikamai said that the Bzusha Hanapol said, I don't want, and it didn't happen, which is what this Maamar is describing. Right? Tzaddik meishel b'yiras Hashem, or what's the Lashon Friedrich Pasuk? Vatigzer eimer vayokom loch, that a tzaddik kvayochel is breaking a gzeidah that the Eibishter made. And of course, again, the question becomes, why does our pasuk single out chassid? Isn't it true that even a tzaddik and kolshke and a yosher have a shaychas to this inyan of being teiraseim nase, on a level of kamalachta nasa de'acherim, that they can be geyser, they can make a bracha to be mamshech from the highest levels to change teva and even to change a gzeidah that the Eibishter made. This is the kasha. And again, the teretz is not going to be that a tzaddik cannot do it. The teretz is going to be that there's 3 levels, and the true Yavarchu Kai, the true idea of changing teva b'derech mamela and being mevatel a gzeir of the Eibishter Kvayachol, b'derech mamela is dafka by a chassid, not by a yosher and not by a tzaddik. But on a lower level, they all have a shaychus to it. V'yesh lavayez, and the answer is api mashav amshich ba'amayim. The Rebbe Rashab goes on to say in his Maamar as follows. Isa b'zeyar, it's written in the Zeyar, Eizehu Chassid, who is a Chassid, Hamas Chassidim Keni, who is kind with his maker. And of course, at length, yesterday, last class, we talked about this at length. What's the title of the word, Eizehu Chassid, Hamas Chassidim Keni? That he puts the Eibishter before himself. Keben, veistach, the Rochem lavui v'imei, yotem v'garmei v'nafshe v'ruchi v'nishmasei, umasar nafshe alayim lamisa, like a son who loves his father more than and his mother, more than he loves his own guf and his own nefesh, his own ruach and his own neshama, and he gives himself away to them to die. And of course, when you say that Hamas Chasadim Koine, that you put the Eibishter before yourself, it doesn't mean you put the Eibishter, meaning Teira mitzvahs, before Avedis. It means you put what the Eibishter needs before what you need as a Yid, before your Ruchnias. You have a relationship with the Eibishter, and a Yid who's Meschasad and Kene doesn't think about his relationship with the Eibishter. He thinks Kfayachal what the Eibishter needs, and puts aside his Ruchnias for the Eibishter's needs, which is, of course, so much of last night's discussion about our Chosid is Eine versus Deirish Teva Zulasa. He puts somebody else ahead of himself. So there's in the Zayah that a Chosid is Meschasad and Kene. Hainu Dinyanei Shal Chosid, who? What makes somebody a Chosid? Sha'avodasa is leibish fil atzma. He doesn't serve Hashem for his own sake. B'chtei sheyedavik b'lakus, that he should be attached to lakus. Ela l'tzeirech gaveya. He lives for a lakus. Kedisa b'tanya, like it's written in Tanya, in footnote 40, he's trying to pay the cure. And I'm a little bit surprised that he's not trying also to pay the mamalaf, but nobody's asking me, obviously. And Tzedek Gaveya means he puts the Eibishter's need, which is the Yachtik to bring him into this world, before his own need to be Davik and Alakus. And the Rebbe Rashab continues and he explains this idea that a human being is called a chassid because he puts the Eibishter's interest before his own ruchniyazdiki interest. And therefore it's called a chassid. This is the madrega of pnimiyas atik. And of course, in our mind, pnimiyas atik means ein safe, hamalubish berad lo, the level of godliness, which is the equivalent of helam ha'atzmi. In an earlier shir we had, and I showed it to you a number of times, on the previous maamar, the Rebbe said that the madrege of pnimiyas atik ein safe, hamalubish berad lo, is called atzmas, bottom of nun gimel. On top of Nadal, Atzma said ain't saved. Lagabi Atzma said ain't saved. Ain't shum mitziyah shechutz mimenu. Va'adraba mitzvah simatzi is barach hu mitzvah shall call on inside. The truth of the Eibishter, the truth of everything is the Eibishter, and the idea that you're revealing ain't saved hamalubish brad law is that you're revealing that everything is the Eibishter. V'zehu, and this is the pshat shechos edu l'mayla mitzadik u'l'mayla gam yashar. That a chosser is higher than a tzaddik. It's higher also than a yashar. Because although the way I'm teaching it to you at least, even a tzaddik and also a yosher, they're all the madreg of teras hayom nasei, and therefore malachtam nasadei achedim, all they do is learn Torah, and they're so davak and elkus through the limud Torah and in their limud Torah that the Eibishter provides them for their needs automatically, and they have a balabat shket over the world, but that to change what the Eibishter created or change what the Eibishter decreed. By commanding as opposed to requesting. Nevertheless, only the chassid has this higher madrege of pnimiyas atik. When a tzaddik serves the Eibishter, and a tzaddik is, we're talking about a yid l'cheirem, who's also madrege b'chol meidecha, is also madrege of terasayim nase, is also madrege of malach nasadei acherim, which is the reason or the madrege where he's the Eibishter's gaze and he's mevatel, or he's gazed at Eibishter's makayim, but the level of godliness he accesses that allows him to achieve this is called chitzenius hakeser, arech. Now chitzenius hakeser is keser. Keser is higher than ishtalshalos. So even a tzaddik, who is so to speak the lowest level of the three, is also the madrege of higher than ishtalshalos. V'amshachat aveda the yesharim, and above the tzaddik is a yashar, which is l'mayla b'tzadikim. His havodah is mepnimiyas hakeser atik. He brings on the higher madreg of keser, which is atik. What's the difference between arich and atik? You'll see later. But b'klos, arich is defined by its power, and atik is defined by its depth. Arich is very, very strong. It goes and goes to no end. And atik is very deep, so nothing can break it, so to speak. But ha'aveda v'amshacha she'aveda d'chsidim, higher than tzaddik and higher than yasher is a chassid, which is not only higher than a tzaddik, he's also higher than a yasher. He's mamshach from pnimiyas atik, from the deepest levels in atik. And pnimiyas atik, as we discussed before a number of times, is ein seif hamalubash beradlo. And he continues that ayadei aveda shalahem dafke a chassid, not a tzaddik and not a yasher, through his avodah, which is bebitl l'maylam emtzias, his bitl beyond any form. Because what's the nature of his bitl? Ezeu chassid amas chassidim koinoi. He puts the Eibishter before his own ruchniyazdiki self. What he brings down through his avodah is mebechinas ha'etzem, the truth of the Eibishter as he is by himself. Shalamaylam me'yispashas, the Eibishter is above how the Eibishter is revealed in the world, which is mitzias. In other words, pnimiyas atik. He's so high, he's so bottled, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the Eibishter that he reveals is etzem. And as I mentioned before, etzem means how the Eibishter himself is everything. And when you reveal how the Eibishter himself is everything, it's not the pshat the Eibishter is being revealed in the world, but you're seeing how the world is Eibishter, as you'll see later. Pnimiyas atik. So again, the Rebbe is not saying that tzaddikim and yesharim can't be mevatel l'gzeir of the Eibishter. He's certainly not saying that tzaddikim and yesharim cannot be gezer. but it's not the same as chassid. Chassid is reaching a higher level, and therefore it's a deeper bracha. As the Shia today will develop and unfold, you'll see. V'zehu, once we understand that all three, tzai tzadik, tzai yosher, tzai chassid, all are being mamshech elukus, which is higher than ishtalshus, and therefore they all have this keach to be goyzed and to bring down a change in teva b'derech bracha. Nevertheless, they're different. So he continues, that it's written in the Gemara, tzedakah ilaniyim. Poor people are given tzedakah. And chesed is for rich people also. The fact that a rich person also needs a kindness, move when it's understood, that the idea of chesed is even above ashiras. So you have three levels, right? He only speaks of two so far, but you have three levels. The lowest level is to give a person what he needs, not to be hungry. The second madrega is to give a person ashiras, wealth. And the third madrega is that even if you're rich already, you still need something higher than ashiras. And those three levels, which you learned about in the previous maamar, are now going to become the madregas of tzaddik, yosher, and chassid. A tzaddik is somebody who is provided for everything he needs. A yosher is somebody who has ashiras, and a chassid is somebody who is even more than ashiras. And the basis for his more than ashiras is his bittul. And the Rebbe Rashab explains, now on top of page Samaches, these three ideas of tzedakah, ashiros, and chesed, which is even higher than ashiros, heim gimel madreges b'am shachas shalamayla, it's bringing down high levels of godliness, shinim shacham b'malchus, that come into malchus. But tzaddik is mamshech from a higher level, but a lower high level. Yosher is mamshech from a high level, but it's higher than tzaddik, and chesed is mamshech from an even higher level. Tzedakah, the idea of tzedakah, shemi liachas and tzedakah means you're giving a person what he's lacking, so he shouldn't be missing anything. They machseri enough to have what he needs, but to have no obligation to make him rich. You're bringing down into the world godliness that the world needs. That the world needs. You know, I always tell my students that there are two English words which frequently get confused. And sorting them out and keeping them separate is very healthy. It's a good way to live a good life. One is the word want and the other is the word need. What's the difference between a want and a need? And the answer in short is needs never change. You need to live. You need health. You need children. And you need parnasa, period. You don't need a car. You don't need a new car. You don't need a house on the coast. Those are wants. And wants never change. Never stay the same. Whatever you have, you want more. So needs are basic. They're staples. They're absolute things. Wants are transcendent things. So the Rebbe says, Malchus is poor. And Malchus has needs. The tzaddik provides Malchus with his needs. Yashar doesn't only provide Malchus with his needs, Yashar provides Malchus with wealth. And Chassid provides Malchus with something which is even higher than wealth. So the Rebbe says, Soka, second line from the top of the page, is me, Liachas is filling a lack. Deimach say giving him what he needs, you're not making him rich. Is Hamshachas Hagil Shashayach LaMalchus. You're bringing down into Malchus what Malchus is Shayach, in other words, what Malchus is entitled to. What's Malchus entitled to? Not to be hungry, not to be cold, not to be barren, not to be ill. So the madrega of tzaddik is teirasa yom nasi, that has a keich of bracha, can be goyz that the Eibusha should provide kach v'kach, kol malachtecha asuya, but it's limited to day machseirei. He can use this koyach to provide what we need, which is enough, but not the shiras. Shai deizen esmal leachasar and shalot satisfies wants. The begilu is nichlal gam bechinas chitzenius akeser arich. The idea that tzedakah or a tzaddik provides malchus for what it's missing goes till keser, which is ain't safe. But what madrega of keser, that's close enough to hishtalshalus to provide hishtalshalus what it needs and no more. The kivan sha'arich u'sheidish ha'mokah netzalim. Ela shehu makif aleihim seviv. Since arich has a connection to Ne'etzol, in other words, a connection to the worlds, to Hishtalshus, it's only makif. Hu bechlal ha'er ha'shayach la'elam. It's part of the air which is connected to the world. In other words, when you talk about the Yebishter, right? What do we know about Hashem? We know about Hashem that His existence is not connected to ours. He doesn't need us at all, right? The famous Rambam, His existence is not dependent upon ours. When you have godliness that was created for the world, even if it's godliness which is higher than Ishtalshalos, but the very fact that it's Shedish L'Ne'etzolim means its existence serves the world, means it has a relativism to the world. If it has a relativism to the world, it follows worldly criteria, worldly rules. And what is the worldly rule? It's providing Malchus only what Malchus needs, Chesaron. It's Ein Seif higher than Ishtalshalos, but Ein Seif higher than Ishtalshalos that would not exist if the Eibush had no intention on creating a world. So its influence, its involvement in the world is by a worldly criteria. And the worldly criteria is, I need. Not I want, but I need. The Rebbe adds, the Shem Tzaddik is Miloshin Tzedakah, that the word Tzaddik is the same as the word Tzedakah, and of course that Tzedakah is Laniyim, and that Tzaddik provides Tzedakah, and the idea here, of course, is that there's a bit of a complexity here, because Tzaddik and Tzedakah are actually the same Asias, right? You have in Paschal Yo at the end that Tzedek is Malchus. At the very end of Paschal Yo it says Tzedek is Malchus. Here you have Tzedek with a Yud, that's Tzaddik, and you have tzedek with hey, that's tzedakah. And Kabbalistically, usually, tzedek would be a say, that tzedakah would be malchus. Here the Rebbe says the shadish is the same, it's the same word. Ki ha'idei avodas tzadikim, the work of a tzaddik, which is hamshachas chitzenius hakesek hanal. It brings down ein sefer higher than ishtalshalos, and as we discussed earlier, this is a gilui of a yid who's the madrege of teirasa yom nosei u'malachtei nasa dei acherim, and therefore he's mevatel a gezeire b'derech tzivoy, but he's bringing down a keichel lekif from higher than ishtalshalos to be mevatel a gezeire b'derech tzivoy, which is connected to the world and not higher. Says the Rebbe, the work of a tzaddik is amshachas chitzenius hakesed, is bringing down a lakus which is higher than ishtalshalos, but a lakus which is higher than ishtalshalos, which is connected to ishtalshalos, and therefore hamshachazu is bechlal mili achasar and tzedakah and no more. He brings down enough to satisfy what the world needs, not to be poor, spiritually speaking, of course, and no more, which is the madrega of tzedakah. So it's true that a tzaddik is like a chassid, in as much is that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu gazer and tzaddik mevatel, tzaddik gazer of HaKadosh Baruch Hu makayim. But his level of ein seif, which is higher than ishtalshalos, that therefore has the ability to be mevatel a gezer that the Eibishter makes, is melekut, which is shachas to the world. And then the Rebbe continues and he speaks about Ashiras, right? Tzaddik is tzedakah. Tzedakah is for poor people. They're giving a person what he needs and no more. And in terms of ishtalshalos, giving the world what it needs to be a world and no more. Then you have yashar, and yashar can provide also wealth, ashiras. And that wealth, practically of course, and of course also spiritually, is not simply giving one what they need, but what they want, and everything they want, right? Wealth, whatever you want. It's amshachas gilier. It brings on a level of godliness, shalamayla mishachas lamalchus, which is above having a relationship with malchus. In other words, its existence is not about the world, and that's the idea. Chitzenius hakesed is called mokel ne'etzolim. It exists in anticipation of creating a world. Pnimius hakesed is not called mokel ne'etzolim. It's called seif meisel. It's not existing because it's a source for the world. And therefore, what it gives the world is not worldly. It's not indirectly connected to the world. It's above the world altogether. So in terms of the world, that's wealth. That's not what you need, but everything that you want. Which is l'mayla mishaychas malchus. It's a level of godliness that's not close to malchus. And therefore doesn't provide malchus only what malchus or world needs, but much more. That comes into malchus. So now malchus doesn't only have what it needs, malchus is rich, because it's getting something which is above the world, which is pimis hakesed atik. And finally, the third madrega is chesed, which is connected to chassidus, to chesed, yeah? Hu lamayla gam me'ashiras. This is higher even than wealth. In other words, hamshachas pnimiyus atik. It's revealing ein seif hamalubish berad lo, which is called pnimiyus atik shenimshach b'malchus, which comes into malchus. And this is even higher, that not only is the world being given what it needs, not only is the world being given more than it needs, but the world is given the Eibishter himself. Or to say it more deeper, the world is given that the world is the Eibishter, and therefore it's not, I have a lot of wealth. I have the Eibishter. And when you have the Eibishter, it's not that you have wealth today, that tomorrow you could lose it. It's you are him, and you cannot lose it. V'zehu. So the Rebbe says, true, that tzaddik, yosher, and chassid can all be mevatel gzeira, but it's only a chassid who has this idea of mischasadim kaineh. Mischasadim kaineh means he puts the Eibishter before himself. He has this incredible bittul, and because he has this incredible bittul, and he puts the Eibishter before himself, he's mamshich this idea of pnimiyus atik. V'zehu, this is the meaning of the Zoya that says, Eisehu chosid ha-mischasadim kaineh, who was a chosid, one who does kindness with his maker. The mi'al taimim al zeh, the reason for this. The mi shavei dosei, because when you're dealing with a person that his service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is leila tzedach hatzmei, he's not thinking about himself at all, not even giving himself away to the Eibishter, he should be bottled to him. Only what the Eibishter needs, nikra b'shem chassid. This is a chassid. And this was yesterday's class, Bariches, that we discussed, the class of last week, the previous class, that he's what? That he's deirish teva zulase. He thinks about what the Eibishter needs, which is liyach the kutchabrichu shchinte betachtenim, that is nikra b'shem chassid meloshen chassid. Ki ayadei shavei de shalei betachas habitl. Whereas his service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the greatest level of bittul, he puts the Eibishter before his ruchniyazdika needs. In other words, l'mayla mimitzias, it's above his form altogether. And amshacha ayadei avedaseh. When a yid lives a life where all he thinks about is what the Eibishter needs, and not even what he needs spiritually, is mipnimiyas atik hanal. It brings down pnimiyas atik, which is einyan chesed, which is a madrega of chesed. So both things are true. Tzaddik Yosher as well bring a lakutz which is higher than ishtalshlos, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu gazes in tzaddik mevatel, but only a chassid brings down not just stokah, not just ashidus, but chesed. V'yesh leimar. And now the Rebbe goes in deeper. Now remember, we had a class. We learned the previous class. We learned just one page, right? And I gave you a very, very long introduction. And I repeated it briefly tonight as well. It is two aspects here. One aspect is that a chassid has incredible bittul, and the other aspect is that it's b'derech memela, like a b'shem b'yachai, doesn't even have to be geyser. That when he learns Torah, whatever he needs happens because him and the Eibishter are so in sync, so to speak. So now the Rebbe says we accept that tzaddik and yosher are the same as chassid. That they're also terasayim nase, it's also b'chol meidecha, it's also HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezer and tzaddik mevatel. The difference only what madrege. And now the Rebbe refines it. He says like this: the mashakos of yeducha v'geimer v'chasidecha yivarchucha. There's two parts to the pasuk, right? The first part of the pasuk is how high the hamshacha is. That yeducha havaya kol maasecha. That you're bringing down a madrege havaya, which is called yeducha. And the other part of the pasuk, v'chasidecha yivarchucha, that a chassid brings it till koi. Says the Rebbe that there's two things about this chassid. Number one, sha'mayla da'amshacha brocha sh'adei chasidecha. That what makes a chassid special is hamshacha he mokem, he draws down from such a high place, which is called yeducha havayeh. She'en shayach by hasaga, it can't be understood. Elehidal b'vad, all you can do is submit to this level. And in Mintas in Yonaidah, the true idea of not being able to understand and only submitting is in Pnimiyas Atik, is in Atzma Sein Sof. And V'amshocha Misham the Eifen the Brocha the Chasidim Dafka. Dafka Chassid brings down from Yeducha Havai. In other words, we're saying that Tzaddik and Yosher also bring higher than Ishtalshlos. But we're saying that chassid brings from an even higher place the madrega of yeducha havaya. But you'll see soon that the Rebbe is going to say that all of them bring down from yeducha havaya, but they don't all bring it down in the way of yevarchu koyim and melam. So what the Rebbe is now going to say is not only is it true that a tzaddik and a yosher also bring godliness which is higher than ishtalshlus, but that a tzaddik and a yosher all reach the madrega of yeducha havaya, the highest madrega, but that they cannot bring it down in a way of memelam, in the way of yevarchu koyim. I just want to say something here that I've been sort of hesitating and wanting to say a number of times. And that is that you learn Tanya, yeah? The Shari'ichet V'Amunah. Perik Ches, Perik Tes, Perik Yud, which are prakim that are hard to understand. There's not as many shurim on them. Everybody knows that the first half of Shari'ichet V'Amunah is dedicated to Achdas Hashem. That the Einyan Muvad, there's nothing besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And of course, if you know how Shari'ichet V'Amunah goes, there's a number of different levels of Achdas. The first is that the Eibishter creates the world every second. The second is Havayahu Elokim. And the third is that the Tzimtzum is Shalei Kipshutei. There's a bunch of different levels of Achdas. When you get to Perek Ches, you're really flipping it around. In other words, you spent all this time saying that nothing besides what Eibishter exists, so the question becomes, if nothing exists, not only you don't exist and I don't exist, Atzilus doesn't exist, Ein Sof doesn't exist, Elokus doesn't exist, which is very problematic, right? Because when we say we don't exist because we're sheker, because we're klipa, because we're chayshach. But when you say that because of Einyan Mavadei, Atzilus doesn't exist, Atzilus is Elokus, Elokus is not a lie. It's a gili of truth. And Ein Sof, which is higher than Atzilus, is not a lie. It's an etzem of truth. So the Alter Rebbe is discussing this question in these prakim, Perek Ches, Tes, and Yud. If the world doesn't exist, does Elokus exist? Right? And you have actually what Alter Rebbe says, I think in the beginning of Perek Yud, that Al Kain nitne reshus ledaber kain, to use the word sfiris l'shachas ha'ezen mashechel l'shmei, that really, just like there's no world, there's no godliness either. Einyan Mavadei. But the Rebbe has sichas on it, where the Rebbe explains the difference. The same mashal that you have of Eir HaShemesh b'Shemesh in Perek Gimel, you have in Perek Yud as well. But there's different lashenis, and the Rebbe shows the difference because when you're talking about the world and you're using the mashal of Eir HaShemesh b'Shemesh, you're saying the world doesn't exist. And when you're talking about Elokus, and you're using the mashal of Eir HaShemesh b'Shemesh, you're not saying the world doesn't exist. You're saying the world is nichlal b'moed. It's the way Eir is included in its source. Anyway, in the course of those three prakim, Perek Ches, Tes, and Yud, where he talks about sfiris, godliness, Elokus, and the question whether godliness is real in the presence of God, just like whether the world is real in the presence of God, he basically divides it into three levels. The lowest level is sfiris, mamalik alaman, gili Elokus. The higher level is what's higher than chokhmah, seviv kalaman. And the highest level, beklolus, klayachal, is the Eibishter himself. And he says, we can all understand till chokhmah. We can all understand till chokhmah. Because chokhmah is ishtalshalus, right? Chokhmah exists in the world. Higher than chokhmah, we cannot understand. But higher than chokhmah, we could know b'derech yediyas hashlila. You could know it indirectly. You can go from chokhmah to higher than chokhmah and understand what's called in Chassidus, the k'tzas, hasoga k'tzas, b'mehus eichos eifen ha'afla of ein seif, which is higher than Atzilus. It's sometimes called in Chassidus, it's an ayin beis, meven dover mitech dover, that from a malak kalam you can't turn to seif of kalam. So there's a level of godliness that you could know directly. There's a level of godliness which you could know indirectly. What about the Eibishter himself? When it comes to the Eibishter himself, the Alter Rebbe says you can't understand them at all. You can't understand them directly. You can't understand them indirectly. You can only have Heidah. Basically the same idea we have here. And he uses the expression that understanding Atmas Samhus is the equivalent of somebody saying about a Davar Ruchni, that it's so Ruchni, that I have this theory, I have this idea, it's so refined you can't touch it with your hands. And the Alter Rebbe says, when someone says, I have this theory and it's so refined I can't touch it, it's a joke. In other words, sometimes the person says something and it's wrong. but it's the kind of wrong that has to be refuted, has to be discredited, because there's a possibility to give it credibility. And sometimes the person, something is wrong, it's so silly, it's a joke. To say about the Eibishter himself, you can understand him, is not only not true, it's laughable. And that's what the Rebbe is describing here when he says Yeducha Havaya. Yeducha Havaya means talking about the Eibishter himself. The Eibishter himself cannot be understood, period. An effort to say, understand, the Eibishter is like saying you want to touch a Dvar Seichel. The only relationship you have with Atmas Amhus is Yeducha Havaya. And a chassid brings down that madrega of Havaya, which is called Yeducha Havaya. You can't know it directly, you can't know it indirectly, you can only submit to it. And as you'll see soon, the Rebbe is going to say that perhaps a tzaddik and a yasha can also bring down Yeducha Havaya. In other words, there's 2 points in chassid. How high the light that he brings down, and how low he brings it. How high the light that he brings down is the word Yeducha Havaya, and how low he brings it is the word Yevarchu Koi, Yevarchucha, that he brings it down memela. So the Rebbe is going to say that the first idea that tzaddik and the yashar share with the chassid, it's the second idea that they don't. Gam yesh leima, but you can say more, deeper. That when you want to separate chassid from tzaddik and yashar, you shouldn't say that the difference is that it's chassid brings down Yeducha Havaya, and a tzaddik and a yashar don't, but you say something different. That the Ikera Chidush be Yeducha v'gem Yevarchucha, what makes a chassid special, that he's bringing the highest level of godliness to the lowest madrege, is Sham Shacha Meham Mokem Shebehu Einyan Aidah. That the fact that a chassid draws down this level of godliness called Yeducha Havaya, Heidah, and the Rebbe says again in parenthesis, in Tzev Shalamayla Mishtal Shalus, Hu Be'efen de Bracha Yevarchucha. The chassid's distinction is not how high the light that he brings down. The tzaddik and the yasha can share that with him, but it's how he brings it down that is b'derech bracha. Hainu, when the Rebbe explains, I am 6 lines from the end of the middle paragraph on page Samaches Sham Shachi b'derech mamela, that a chassid brings it down in such a way that the miracle happens without any tziva, like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's Teda. That to bring down from that level is dafka chassid. Now look at the words of the pasuk. Yeducha Hashem kol maasecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha. Why doesn't it say Yeducha Havaya chasidecha yevarchucha? Because the chasidecha is more associated with the second part. So the Rebbe wants to refine it. Right? The basic issue is that although tzaddik, yashar, chassid all share the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezer and tzaddik b'vatl, which means there's a gzeira in place, and they can overcome that gzeira, and they can overcome a b'derech tziva. They can command the Eibishter to change kvayachal, because they're bringing a lakutzin higher than ishtalshalus. So now the Rebbe is saying all of them are bringing down the same level, all the way till the madrega of Yeducha Havaya, which is atzmas amuz. What separates them is not that one is bringing from a higher level and one is bringing from a lower level, but one doesn't bring it down as deeply. Yevarchucha, that the chassid brings it into the world in such a way that the miracle happens. Memela, this doesn't happen by a tzaddik and a yasha. So, although in the previous paragraph he said that a tzaddik brings down from Adach, and a yasha brings down from Atik, and a chassid brings down from Pnimius Atik, now he's going to say all of them bring down from Pnimius Atik, but the tzaddik brings down from Pnimius Atik in an Adach-like way, the yasha brings down from Pnimius Atik in an Atik-like way, and only the chassid brings down from Pnimius Atik in the Pnimius Atik-like way. Hainu, in other words, the Zesham Shachi Mehamok, to bring down from the level, Shaboy Einyan Aidah, which basically means the Eibishter himself, Atzmos, is Gam B'Tzadikim V'Yesharim, is by Tzadik and a Yashar as well. Even though before he said differently, that they're only bringing down Madregas of Giluyim, they're really all bringing down the Madrega of Yeducha Havaya. Why? Since in general, Kesed is higher than Ishtashlus, Heim L'mayla Me Ishtashlus, says the Rebbe, although specifically there's a huge difference between Arech and Atik and Ein Sof, Avalubish Beradlo, Pnimius Atik, in general, Ein Shaykh B'Masog. Specifically, Kesed is part of Ishtashlus, part of Giluyim. Like I said to you for Charichet Zamunah, Sfiris you understand directly. What's higher than Sfiris you understand indirectly. Says the Rebbe here, but Klolos, it's Ein Shaykh B'Hem Masog, it's above reach intellectually, which is the idea of a double vat. Ella, it is only that although the tzaddik and the yashar, like the chassid, are bringing down a level of elikus which you have to just submit to. Although all of them are reaching the madrega v'ducha havaya, but because they bring it down through a lower garment, if you will, from arech and chitzenius atik, it's kemei b'derech pe'ula. When they make a change in teva, where the Eibishter made a gzeira, they're mavatal it, or they make a gzeira, the Eibishter is makayim it. Although it's a certitude that they can achieve it. It's not a bakosha and a tefillah, it's a bracha, but at least it's a b'derech pe'ula, like the story with the Pinchas ben Yoed, that he was able to make the water split, but he had to say pseik nada, had to tell the waters to split. And amitis ha'inyan b'derech mamela, the idea that a tzaddik brings down this highest level of godliness, and he brings down so low that whatever it is he needs happens memele, because he's so in sync with Hashem, that him and Hashem, so to speak, are one, and his need is Hashem's need, and Hashem's need is his need, and it happens by itself, like the Pshim B'Yachoi. This is Hamshocha B'Pnimiyas Atik. It's when you bring down Pnimiyas Atik in Seifam Lubish Berat Loi, Dei Chasidecha Gedel HaKaman, as I want to explain later. So, in the first discussion, that means Perek Vov, we explained the difference between Tzaddik, Yashar, and Chosid, what level of godliness they're bringing down. And in the second discussion, which is Perek Zayin and Ches, we're not going to distinguish between one and another what level of godliness they're bringing down, but how they're bringing it down, the extent to which it's in a state of harmony with the world. The einyan hu, and the idea is as follows, that we want to now explain that all three, tzaddik, yashar, chassid, are in the madreg, yevteros, hayum nosei, der HaKadosh Baruch Hu gezer, and tzaddik mavat. They have the power to break the Eibishter's decree, and they can do it b'derech tzivoy, not b'derech bakosha, because they're revealing the highest madregas nelakus. Nevertheless, the way it's manifest in this world is distinct in terms of the idea of it being smooth, seamless, without any effort. So the Rebbe begins by saying, let's talk about tzaddik and yashar, if you will. That the difference between arich and atik is b'dugmas ratzon v'taynu. To understand the way that tzaddik affects a change in the world, b'derech tzivui, pe'ula, and the way a yashar affects a change in the world, b'derech pe'ula, as opposed to a chassid affecting a change in the world, b'derech mamele. We have to analyze each one's character. Yeah, what's the character of the tzaddik? He's bringing a lakus higher than ishtalshlus, but it's in a way of ratzon. Chitzonius akeser arach is ratzon. So the tzaddik, the mashal to describe how a tzaddik affects a forced change in the Eibishter's Gezerah is like will. The mashal to describe how a yashar affects a forced change in the Eibishter's will is like tainug. And the mashal to describe the way a chassid can affect a change in the Eibishter's will, we'll get to later. He starts off with tzaddik and yashar, ratzon and tainug. So we're talking about the ratzon, yeah? Will, we know what will is. Will is very powerful, will is very strong, right? Will is very assertive. But the way will operates is that it forces itself on you. It's stronger than you. Yeah? Your body is sitting and your will makes you move. You have a certain approach to life based on reason, and the will says, I don't care what you understand, you're going to do this anyway. The faculties and the limbs of the person that by themselves have one approach to life, and the will comes along and forces them into doing something which is inconsistent with their approach. Says the Rebbe, will doesn't change what you think. Will doesn't change what you feel. It forces you to do it even though you don't think this way, even though you don't feel this way. The will dominates over them, and coerces them, forces them, they should conform to what the will wants, against their own nature. That's how will operates. Its will is stronger than you. So it pushes you around, so to speak. What about tainug? The idea that your faculties, your brain, your heart, your senses understand and feel and sense things a certain way. And then your neshamas tainug is propelling you, is compelling you in a different direction. This is much deeper, much more subtle. Says the Rebbe, Tainug is not Ratzon. Ratzon forces itself upon you. Tainug raises you up. Says the Rebbe, the Kivan Shah Tainug, delight, pleasure, which is the essence of the neshama, is Pnimius v'chayis, the akeches v'vodam atzma, right? The real motivation behind what a person does is not their mind and their heart. The real motivation behind what the person does is their nature, is their personality. And when you do things, and you give logical explanation for why you do things, and it's emotionally appropriate, that it appeals to your senses, to your sense of beauty, and so on, the real source of what motivates you to do things this way, because it's your personality. Your personality is your tainug, what gives you pleasure. So your tainug is really the spirit, it's the pleasure, it's the motivation behind how you reason and how you feel and so forth. Lochein, first line on top of samach, that's therefore. The way pleasure, your pleasure source, your neshama's personality, which is the way you're going to get pleasure based on your nature, changes how you reason and feel and sense, is it's not forcing you to change. It's transforming. Will pushes you. So you want to do one thing, your will says do the opposite. Tainuk raises you up. You have a way of understanding things and feeling things, and your delight, your neshama says, feel it differently. So your brain is transformed. It's not coerced, it's not compelled, it's not pushed, it's transformed. So this is the difference between Ratzon and Tainug. All over Hasidus you have this mashal. And of course the Nimshal is going to be Ratzon and Tainug, which is Arach and Ampin, Arach and Atek is going to be the difference between a Tzaddik and a Yosha. So he continues. The same is true in the Lakus. When godliness is revealed, higher than Ishtalshus, to assert an effect of change in Ishtalshus. If it's Aidei, Yam Shachad, the Chetzenius HaKeser, we're bringing the lower Madreg of Keser, which of course is the Madreg Shirim Shechas Aidei Tzadikim, that's the lowest level of Tzadik. Says the Rebbe, this is how it would work. The Gam Kishamitzad Bechines HaIshtalshus. Although, the way the Eibishter created the order of his world, Yeshna Gezeda, the decree that there's not going to be rain, for example. Shleitiyam Shachas HaShpa, this flow shouldn't be brought down. Nevertheless, Ayadei Tzadik Mamshich Rotzen Kodesh. This tzaddik brings down a higher will. And now we know, based on the first Siv Zayin, that this higher will comes all the way from Yiducha Havaya. The Eibishter himself, which is higher than understanding altogether, that we submit. But the way it comes into the world is with force. It breaks the decree. However, it's be'efan the shlita mamshala. It pushes the will aside. It dominates. It controls. Tzaddik meishel b'yiras havaya. The tzaddik dominates over the Elokim, so to speak. Sha'aratz and shalamayla mehishtalshalos. The will, the godliness which is above the world, comes into the world and forces a change in the world. Dominates, rules, controls over Seder Ishtalshus. So the difference is not what level of godliness you're bringing down. The difference is how that godliness interfaces with the world. A tzaddik can change a decree the Eibishter made by breaking the decree. The decree is part of the design of his creation. And the tzaddik brings ein safe, like will, which changes the nature of the world. So first of all, it doesn't happen by itself. The tzaddik has to be goizer, has to do it b'derech pa'ula. And moreover, it doesn't have a harmony with the world. It has a power to be stronger than the world. That's all. What about Yashar, the middle madrega? So the Rebbe now continues. Ubitel ha'gezeira shemitzad bechinas ha'ishtalshalos. When there's a gezeira in this world, that there's not going to be rain, for example. The way the order of the world, there's limitations that the Eibishter put in. And a Yashar has the koyach to bring in seif, which is higher than Ishtalshalos, that we now know is the madrega of Yeducha Havaya, completely beyond comprehending. But he's bringing it down, b'derech atik, which is Tainug, al de amshachas pnimius hakesed, which is Tainug, shenemshachas aidei ho'aveda de yesharim, which is brought down by a level of Yid, who's a higher madrega of Teirasa Yemnasei and B'chol Meidecha than a tzaddik. He's a madrega of Yashar. Says the Rebbe, it's leibei from the shlita. He's not forcing himself on the world, but rather he's creating a harmony between the godliness which is higher than the world and the world. The key, whereas the delight, which is the pnimius HaKesef, a higher level of Kesef. Hu ha-pnimius, the ishtalshalos, the real source of the creation, is the divine pleasure of what the creation is meant to achieve. When a yosha brings into the world the godliness which we call the Yiduch HaHavaya, but it brings into the world in a way of delight, in a way of enriching the world, as opposed to forcing the world. Sharatzen sham hu shati yehashpo, that the will that comes from Pnimius HaKesef, from Tainuk, is that the flow should come, which the Eibush said it shouldn't come. Says the Rebbe, so then, Bitel HaGezeru Gam Mitzad HaHishtalshelus Guf. It isn't breaking Hishtalshelus, it's transforming Hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus means the order of the world, right? The order of the world has certain rules. One of the rules of the order of the world is called the Gzeira. The Eibush decided that there's not going to be rain. So the tzaddik can break the Gezeira, which is the madrega of tzaddik, or the yosha can reveal godliness in such a way that the world changes. And because the world changes, the world is uplifted, so the Gezeira is gone. It's a higher madrega. What you'll see later, that even this is still b'derech pa'ula. It's still b'derech tziva. In Gezeira, it's not yet the highest madrega. And the Rebbe gives you an aside, the Maamarim Muzkin. We're in the middle of Yosher, right? You the Haltkop, yeah? You're with me, yeah? We did Tzaddik, and Tzaddik brings down the highest level of Elokus, but in a way of Ratzon, where he breaks the world. We're doing Yosher. He brings in the highest level of Elokus in a way that it becomes one with the world, that the world reacts to the Gili of Tainuk by being uplifted, so the Gezeira is no longer. So now the Rebbe brings a maamar Chazal, which is consistent with this madrega of Yosher. That it says in Chazal, Omer Razal, it's a Gemara in Bab Metzia. Kol Amalamad is ben Amoretz Teda. Someone who teaches Teda to the son of an Am Ha'aretz. Afilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Gezer Gezeira. Even if Hashem made a decree, Mevatla B'shvil, he'll break it because of this tzaddik. Shenem, as the pasuk says, V'im teitze Yoker Mizeilu. Somebody who takes somebody Yoker, somebody precious, out of Zayil, in other words, you save this, the son of an Am Ha'aretz, you make into a Talmud Chacham, Kefi Tihiyeh, you have an ability to force the Eibush, so to speak. The law, so this is the madrege of Yosher. So the Rebbe says, what does the Gemara say, the Lashon? If you're Melamed ben Am Ha'aretz Teda, the Eibush made a decree, and the Eibush breaks it for you. Right? Not you break it, the Eibush breaks it for you. Right? What's the difference between you breaking the Eibush's Gezeira and the Eibush is breaking it for you? The difference is different in Tzaddik and Yosher. A Tzaddik breaks the Gezeira. A Yosher affects that Hashem should break it for him. The Loshen Mevatla B'shvilei is not your breaking the Eibush's decree, but Moira HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mevatla B'shvilei. Hashem is breaking it for you. This is the madrega of Yosher, which is higher than Tzaddik. This is a higher level. Mizeh, from the idea Shakadosh Baruch Hu Gezer v'Tzaddik Mavat. Hashem made a decree, and the Tzaddik breaks it. Now Hashem made a decree, and Hashem is breaking it, because when the Tzaddik breaks a decree, he's forcing the will of the Eibush to change. When the Yosher breaks a decree, he's raising up the world to a madrega of godliness, where the decree is automatically broken. That's the Taich Kadosh Baruch Hu Mavatla. So it says this Gemara is describing the in-between state, right? The tzaddik is mevatla. A chosid, it doesn't do anything. It's memela, as you'll see momentarily, soon. And the yosher is in between. He's not breaking the decree, but he's raising up the world to a level where the world changes it himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevatla. You know the pshat says, we know that pleasure in general comes from something novel. You don't get pleasure from Tainuk Tmidi any time, right? So by the Eibishter, what does the Eibishter get pleasure from? Something which is a surprise, something which is a chiddush. Like the famous mashal from the Tzipor Amidaberes, right? When the parrot speaks, the king laughs. Not because the parrot's such a good speaker, but because it's a surprise. And the nimshal is hapcha chasheichel and neheira. A holy person involved in a holy world doing holy things is wonderful, but there's nothing novel about it. But when you get involved in darkness and in dirt, and you find holiness, or you bring holiness out of that darkness, that's a chiddush. It says that when you save the son of an Amoretz and you make him to a Talmud Chacham, because of the chiddush Bedavar, it gives the Eibush incredible pleasure. Since this tzaddik that learns and teaches Torah, but not just to the children of the Talmidei Chachamim, to students that are vessels for Torah, but gam leben amoretz, even for the child of Amoretz, says the Rebbe nasa tainug l'mayla. It creates pleasure by the Eibishter. The teaching Torah to the son of a Talmud Chacham, for the sake of argument, would bring down a level of ein seif hayden ishtalshlos, but derech gezeira. Ratz. Teaching Torah to the child of an Am Ha'aretz brings down a pleasure from the Eibishter, which is not going to force itself on the world, but derech ratzon, but it's going to have an effect that HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevatlo, because they're going to bring a pleasure of the Eibishter into this world, which is going to change what the world is. When this Gezeira is nullified, it's leibe from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the tzaddik mevatlo. It's not, so to speak, the tzaddik fighting with the Eibishter. The Eibishter has one Gezeira, and the tzaddik is mevatel the Gezeira. Hainu, in other words, should be tzaddik HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Ishtalshlos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu represents the madrega of Ishtalshlos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on Malchus Ishtalshlos. Yeshna Gezeira. There continues to be a decree. El lo shaydei darga de l'maylam Ishtalshlos. The tzaddik forces a level higher than Ishtalshus into Ishtalshus, which is Chitanius HaKeser, and as a consequence, which tzaddik brings down, it's stronger than the level of Ishtalshus, and therefore tzaddik meishal b'yidus havayim evatelas. You break it. That's the level of tzaddik. But the level of yosher is higher. Not you break it, you cause that the world should break it itself, that the Eibusha should break it himself. Ki'im shadei tainuk, since you bring down the level of tainuk, which is a madreg of godliness, which doesn't force or break the world, but it enriches the world, it raises the world up to what the world is really meant to be. Pnimius HaKesed, Shenasa L'mayla Mevedosa, which is achieved to the Avodah. And as the Rebbe said earlier, it's the Tainuk from his Hapcha HaSheichel and Neheda. Heitzi Yaakov Mizelo. Therefore, Bittul HaGezerah, when Pnimius HaKesed, when Tainuk, when Yosha breaks a decree, it's Gamit HaLadarged HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Ishtashos. The world itself is breaking its own decree. So you should be thinking right away, so if Yashar is affecting the world in such a way that the world is breaking its own decree, what could possibly be higher? What could be a chassid which is higher than Yashar? But you'll find out in a minute. So the Rebbe is giving us clear distinctions between three levels of Yidden who are all Terasem Naseh, Tzaddik, Yashar, and Chassid. Originally, the Rebbe said, that means in Perek Vov, the Rebbe said there's different levels. And now the Rebbe is saying, in Perek Zayin and Ches, it's all the same level. But how is this same level interfacing with the world? In the case of the tzaddik, it's interfacing with the world by breaking the world. In the case of the yosher, interfacing with the world by raising the world up until the world, so to speak, agrees to the breaking of the decree. And now let's move on to chassid. V'hinei. You do what is known. So we're going from the second level to the third level. Dagam sha'atik hu loshen netak b'nivil, that the emes is, that even though atik means removed from the world, and of course removed from the world means a level of godliness which is not about the world, but a level of godliness which is about etzem, about itself. And since it's a level of godliness which is above the world, its relationship with the world is not relative to the world like atik. Nevertheless, it's called atik yemen. Right? You know that atik yemen is originally a pasuk, right? 55. Atake means removed from world. Removed from world is a relationship. And if removed from world is a relationship, that means Atake interfaces with the world indirectly on a worldly level, and therefore it's not entirely harmonious. It's relative to the world. Shu netak miyemen. Moving, it's understood. Shegam legabi adarge da atik. Even the higher level of keser, which is called atik yet shnam yenim, there's time, there's a world. El shu natak mihem, it's removed. Bracket, v'yaseidim is there. Moreover, shegama darga shnikra atik stam. The truth is, even when they have my Maamar Chassidus, they talk about the difference between the word atik and atikev. You look at footnote 53. He's mitzayin to basi legan tav shmam ches. The last maamar basi legani that the Rebbe said so far was in 1988, 12 days before the Rebbe passed away. And one of the discussions in that maamar is that there's atik yemen, and then higher than atik yemen is atik stam. Shalamayla me atik yemen. Mikomakam, nevertheless, you call it removed from world, even if you don't say the word yemen. The pirish atek hushanetak, even the word atek alone means separated. It's therefore necessary to say, einyan hu netak. In plain English, just like arich is godliness which has a relationship with the world, atik is a level of godliness that doesn't have a relationship with the world. But that's its level, that it doesn't have a relationship with the world. A level of godliness whose level is that it doesn't have a relationship with the world is in relationship to the world. But it's b'derech shlila. V'lachein, and therefore, bitul ha'gezera, the level of yashar, right, which reveals tainuk, which doesn't break the world, but enriches and uplifts the world until the world changes the decree naturally. In other words, the world is not being forced to change. It's being uplifted to a place where it changes itself. Says the Rebbe, it's also b'derech pu'ula. It's still an act. The world by itself, nigzar. Top of page 8. As far as the world is concerned, there's not supposed to be rain, for example. Atik affects a bittel. Ella, it is only. The way atik breaks it is be'efin sha'ishtashlus atzmoi nasa be'efin that the ishtashlus changes. What the Rebbe is saying is atik changes the world very peacefully. But the very fact that you use the word change is not natural. It's not mamela, it's a pu'ula. The world is in one state. Atik raises up the world to a different state and changes the world. So, as they say in Yiddish, vi nicht vi, having said that, the influence of atik on the world is that godliness is changing the world. It's changing the world in such a way that the world itself is affecting the change, but there is an imposer and an imposed. It's like a tzaddik who's not breaking the Eibishter's decree. He's getting the Eibishter to break his decree, but he's getting the Eibishter to break his decree through his effect, through his influence, through his act. B'derech pu'ula. Okay? And now goes the third level. Ein sof hamalubish b'adla, pnimiyas atik, which is the true b'derech mamela. Aval hashinoi be'ishtashlus, adem shachas pnimiyas atik. The idea that ishtashlus is changed by revealing the Ein sof hamalubish b'adla, pnimiyas atik. And as I told you many times, I read it before tonight again, that this is really a gili, how the Eibishter is one with the world. When you reveal that the Eibishter is one with the world doesn't have to change. The world is Eibishter. Says the Rebbe, Eini b'derech pu'ula el b'derech mel. That's the real b'derech mel, like Reb Shimon bar Yochai, as opposed to the Pinchas ben Yair. V'ha einyan, and the Rebbe explains. The pnimi is atik when safe shabarat law come for about Maamarim. The Rebbe Rashab says in his Maamarim, the pnimi is atik means the godliness which is in that law. And now the Rebbe repeats again the kiv and the pirish ein safe, the meaning of ein safe in that law. He translates the word ein safe literally. Hu she'ein be'shum agbal, there's no limit. How they move, and it's understood shalagabi ein safe, a level which has no limit. You can't say that it's in the world or removed from the world. There's no limits. It's not in the world. It's not removed from the world. It's not in the world. It's not removed from the world. It has no limits. To a level which is called ein safe, ein shayach einyan ishtalshus. There is no world. Even though this level is placed in ishtalshus, it's ein safe in that law. Says the Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab explained, Ein Seif B'Rat Law is the same thing as Ein Seif itself. And Ein Seif itself is what? The Eibishter. No. When you reveal Hashem, when you reveal Hashem, where are you revealing Him? There's no place to reveal Him. Why? Whatever you look at is Him. So if you reveal how this table is Hashem, what happens to the table? It disappears. If you reveal this table is Hashem, whatever this table is, an expression of Him. So nothing is changed. Nothing is changed. You've simply revealed that this is Hashem. But when you reveal this is Hashem, this begins to reflect what Hashem is. So nothing changes. It happens automatically. The bitul ha'gezeira mishmishad ha'ishtashlus. When the world's decree, limit, is broken, adeam shachas agil de pnimius atik. By revealing the madrega pnimius atik, it's leisha yedei ha'atik. Hagil pnimis atik nasa bit lagazera. There's no cause and effect. That's the Rebbe's word. Rotzen forces, Atik affects harmoniously, but at least there's a cause and effect. There's an act and a reaction. In Sof HaMalubish B'Adla, there's no cause. You're revealing unity. You're revealing how everything is one. And when everything is one, you don't have to change it. It is what it is. Says the rebbe, there's no pu'ul of bitla gezerah. Ti'im rather. Shemitzad ha'gilui de pnimius atik. When you reveal pnimius atik, which is ein seif sheberat law, ein mokum metchil gezerah. The gezerah never existed. And the Eibush that everything is right. Everything is good. And that's the mile of chassid. So tonight's class started with a kasha, right? What was the kasha? The kasha was, why do we say that only a chassid brings down yeducha havaya and brings it down in the way of yevarchucha? In other words, only a chassid has enough bittul that it can affect a change in this world b'derech bracha and b'derech memela. Isn't it true of a tzaddik and a yosher as well? Says the Rebbe, of course, a tzaddik can do it also, and a yosher can do it also. Moreover, a tzaddik and a yosher can also reveal the madrega v'ducha havaya, but their involvement in the world is b'derech pa'ula. The tzaddik forces a change in the world. The yosher raises up the world to a place of change, and the chassid reveals how the world is the Eibishter. And then the change doesn't have to happen, it's automatic. So now we understand that only a chassid can bring a bracha into this world, which is a certain change of the gezerah, and a b'derech memela, even though a tzaddik and a yosher can do it as well. That tzaddikim and yesharim do it, but b'derech mimshala, or b'derech shinui and a pe'ula. And the chassid does neither of those things. And he goes back and explains the lashon of the Yerushalmi. In the Bavli you also have a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the tzaddik mevatel. But the Yerushalmi's language is very, very precise. Kedei Sabi Yerushalmi says in Yerushalmi, Yafil hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu merachin. The Eibusha says one thing. V'at amar hachin. And you're saying something different. The dach kaima, the delay kaima. What you say happens, what I say doesn't happen. The pirush, the meaning of these words. It doesn't say anything about a gzeir and a bittel. It simply says what I said is not sustained, and what you said is sustained. The pirush, the meaning of these words, the delay kaimahu, that what I said is not sustained. Lo yishayadei she'at omer hachin mizbatel ha'gezer. It isn't that you say something different than I, and you break my will, the Eibishter says. That's not what it means. But rather, ayadei agil de pnimis atik, when you reveal himself, am lubish berad lo. When you say hachin, says the rebbe, ein makom lechatchila legzeira lekaima. It's like it never happened. It's not the Eibishter said one thing, and you said something different, but when you reveal in Sefer Melubish B'Rad Law, that becomes the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'zehu, and therefore it says, Yeducha v'chasidecha yivarchucha. A tzaddik and a yosher could also be mevatel legzeira, but it's b'derech pe'ula, b'derech memshala. By a chassid, he reveals the Eibishter. And reveal the Eibishter, your will, the chassid's will, and the Eibishter's will are the same. Sham shocha mi'amokim. You bring down from a place, Shabei hu ha'ida, Yeducha havaya. But be'efen the broch, and the Rebbe emphasizes b'derech memela, that it's not you're changing in the world, but that you're revealing what the truth of the world is, and the change is automatic. It's aidei chasidech dafke, only a chassid, the bittul of a chassid, the fact that the bracha should be b'derech memela, ki amshocha she'aidei chasidecha. What a chassid brings down as pnimius hatik, and amshocha misham is lei b'derech pe'ula. It's not a pro-action of b'derech memela. So the Rebbe really explained it to us. It's very edel, very deep, but it's also very orderly. He explained it to us very, very well. So, Mr. Hashem, the next year we'll finish this series of Maamarim.